This is Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
On a Tuesday, you already know, we put in a little overtime on this day especially. Welcome to Fox 8 Overtime. Sean Vazan, Garland Gillen, I'm Juan Kincaid. Pro, college, prep football. Let's add some Pelicans. It's about to get even busier around here.
This is what we live for, Juan. This is why we got in the business. Non-stop every day. We're talking football. We're talking basketball. Yep. I'm ready to roll, man. I'm really excited about this time of year.
Gotta love October. It's the best month of the year.
Especially when you got a basketball team to look forward to.
Exactly.
We'll get to that in a second, but let's get you right to the big board. Here's what we're talking about tonight. Saints. We'll break down the first quarter of the season and as tough a start for any NFL team. And then we'll look ahead to the next 4 weeks of the black and gold. And, of course, the Pelicans beginning training camp today. We'll talk about what should be expected from Zion, Drew, and the rest of the guys this season. But first, the first four for the Saints. The gauntlet, as it was called when the season began, beating Houston in the opener, losing Drew Brees, and then the game against the Rams in week 2. Back-to-back wins, Seattle, and, of course, Sunday night against Dallas. And the Saints are 3-1. Is it a surprising 3-1?
Yeah, given the circumstances, I would say yes. With Drew Brees, I mean, they could have went 4-0, but it would have been tough to get to 3-1. You could have seen it either way: 3-1, 4-0, 2-2, even with Drew Brees. But to overcome the adversity, go to Seattle, then obviously win the game against Dallas. Certainly, you like where you are. Perhaps better than you thought you would. But once Brees got injured and Teddy was in, you were thinking immediately. I think we all said it. Get to 2-2 and you'll be fine. Well, here they are at 3-1. So first quarter of the season's done. The Saints look good.
I'm totally surprised that they're 3-1. It's even more surprising that the defense is one of the main reasons that they're 3-1. Right now, the NFC South, they're in first place, but the NFC is wide open.
It is.
There's not a real clear-cut team, so everything's in front of the Saints right now. Drew Brees' prognosis for return looking good, so everything is A-OK for the black and gold.
They're 3-1, and honestly, they could really be 1-3. Flip it around when Drew goes out. I don't think anybody expected them to beat the Rams with Teddy coming off the bench and cold and trying to just get the team through that game. And then you get surprised about how things go the next 2 weeks, because you got a team that needed special teams and a good defense performance in the game against Seattle. They got that. And you got a defense step up in the last game against the Cowboys. Those two things, it's been a long time since we've been able to count on this defense to give you those kind of performances on a consistent basis over the last 2 weeks. But I want to ask you guys, what do you think has been the most surprising result of all the four? Texans, Seahawks, Rams, or Cowboys?
I'm going to go what just happened, the Cowboys.
Okay.
That was the game I feared the most because I've said this before, when I watched the tape of Seattle going into that game, I got more and more confident as the week went on, especially when I talked to the players inside that locker room, how confident and loose they looked. So them winning that game was not as surprising as I went into this game. My confidence level was at about a 5 because I felt like this was the most talented roster they had faced pretty much all season, and it was obviously a pretty good start to the season in terms of just the level of competition that they played. So I'm going to say the win over the Cowboys, especially in the manner that they did it. Not that it was kind of a low-scoring game, but the fact they didn't score a single touchdown.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And won the game. It was a Jim Moore-type win.
Yes, it was. They would be proud.
I'm going to go with Sean here also with the Cowboys there. I'm just looking at the stat book again today. Ezekiel Elliott, 35 yards rushing.
Yeah.
One, you'd have told me that, I would have told you crazy, okay? And then Amari Cooper getting under 50 yards receiving, and then Marshawn Lattimore would shut him down the whole game after what he's dealt with against the Texans and the Rams and the Seahawks. Sean also pointed out to us, I think that the Seattle game was ripe for a win because the Saints were on the road, blocked out the noise for the entire week. Seattle, their wins were against a Steelers team that lost Ben Roethlisberger in the first quarter. They beat the Bengals, who are not a good team, obviously. They're 0-4 now. They beat them by 1 point. But you can say the same thing about the Cowboys, but I really didn't think that the Seahawks were that good of a team. And I thought that Sean Payton, that would galvanize the team, the us against the world mentality, and I knew that would work in Seattle. Dallas, just a fiery offense there. That more surprising to me.
What has surprised you? What's the one thing we've learned about this Saints team through the first 4 games, Garland?
For the first 4 games?
First 4 games, yeah.
The defense. I didn't expect them to be this good. Okay. I didn't, we all heard about how Kellen Moore is a genius. Okay. Jason Garrett's in the last year of his contract. We're all hearing that maybe even Kellen Moore could take over the Cowboys next year. Well, Dennis Allen put him in his place there. Dennis Allen showed him what big boy football is about. Totally dominated him in the play calling there. So I'm surprised how well this defense is looking, especially when they were missing Sheldon Rankins. Now he's back, but they were missing him at the beginning of the season.
I agree, and kind of brought up to the grown-up table as I put it in my blog. But not just defense, but the defensive line. Because going into the preseason, we had questions about this pass rush.
Yes, we did.
Those questions for the first quarter of the season have been answered. And just think of the names here. Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, Trey Hendrickson, Sheldon Rankins put in some good work. David Onyemata, the most underrated player on the team right now. Shai Tuttle, Malcolm Brown. That D-line is talented.
Mario Edwards didn't even play in the last
He's a
game.
healthy scratch.
Yeah, exactly.
Talented, deep, and they are playing about as well as any of us thought they would, probably even better than we all thought they would. And you've got a deep and talented defensive line. You're going to win a lot of football games in the NFL.
I feel like we all know Sean Payton, having been around him for so long now. But what have we learned about him that maybe we didn't know, we weren't quite sure about after 4 games in the start of the season? Because he had to do something he's never had to do before, consistent play without Drew.
Well, it goes to show you he's doing what he has to do to win the game. And he's stylistically, we know Sean Payton, we think offensive guru, wants to score a lot of points, but if he has to win 12-10, he's perfectly fine doing it. I believe the phrase he said was not aesthetically pleasing. Who cares? Look at that record on your screen.
Yeah.
They're 3-1. So doing whatever he has to do to put his team in the best position to win, that's what he's done.
Yeah, and I pointed out before with Sean Payton, but you know he's called an offensive genius for a reason. He picked what works for Teddy Bridgewater, but he also loves when everybody doubts him, and everybody's been doubting the Saints. I mean, they were 5-point dogs at Seattle, won. They were 2-point dogs at home, they won. This is the kind of stuff he loves. All those Bill Parcells things back in the day, you know, with the gas can and don't eat the cheese, all those things. I'm sure he's broken them all out the last 2 weeks, and they've all worked.
Well, the loop. They had the Saints Cowboys game from last year on a loop in the locker room.
That's right. Good call,
I walked in there Friday. It was still on.
A lot of players are saying after the game they got tired of seeing that, but it was the perfect reminder. If you look at this defense, what's the one player that stood out the most on this defense? For me, it's been Von Bell and what he's done in a year turnaround.
You know, I'm gonna go at the second level. I just think Demario Davis is so good, so consistent. Good. Here, we all know who he is, but I'm not sure he gets his due league-wide. I mean, the way he reads reads offenses, anticipates plays, tackles for losses, plays well in coverage. He's kind of the heart and soul taking over that pregame huddle, so he's emerged as a leader of the entire team, not just the defense. Look, when they signed Demario Davis last year, I think he's been everything they had hoped for and even more, especially this season.
I'm going to go with Marcus Davenport. He brought the heat on Dak Prescott all game. He took a lot of negative press last year. Very philosophical during training camp about not paying attention to all the outside, I know I'm saying it noise, but that's exactly what he said. So I like Davenport there. He has helped in a lot of the ways. I know it's not all in the stat book, but Dak Prescott, guarantee he saw Davenport in his nightmares on Sunday night.
He's the one guy that got to Prescott consistently. Didn't get him down, but pressured him as much as well as anybody. All right, coming up, we'll turn the page to the second quarter of the season for the Saints. The name of the teams will change, but will the opposition get any better?
Overtime, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers. You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
All right, welcome back into Fox 8 Overtime. We're going to talk now about what's to come for the Black and Gold. 1/4 of the season's in the books. Saints are 3-1. And here's what's to come in weeks 5 through 8. You see it there. Tampa Bay at home this weekend. Then on the road at Jacksonville, on the road at Chicago, back home on the 27th to take on the Arizona Cardinals. If you look at first glance, guys, it's not that bad of a schedule, but you've got some tough games there. Tampa Bay coming off a huge win at the Rams game. So how do you assess what you see based on first glance?
Theoretically, it looks like an easier draw than the first quarter of the season, but then again, Tampa Bay looked like an easier draw when the season started. Guess what? That game was a lot tougher.
They're always tricky, though.
They're always a tricky team. I look at the second quarter of the season, and I don't see why the Saints couldn't match what they did in the first quarter of the season. Go 3-1, get to 6-2 by the break, by the halfway mark. I think that would be great. But look, there is no, like in the NFL, you just can't assume anything. So I just think while it looks enticing on paper and looks certainly attainable on paper, you got to live this week-to-week existence.
Garland, which is the tricky game, the trick game, the trap game?
I got to think it's going to be the Jaguars, okay?
I agree.
And Gardner Minshew is finally starting to feel himself, and Leonard Fournette won for, 200-plus yards? Man, that is a scary second part of the schedule there. Sorry, the next 4 of the schedule. Yeah. The only gimme on there, I know there's no gimme in the NFL, but the Cardinals are the only one. The Bears actually look better with Chase Daniel at quarterback, Sean Fazan's favorite backup of all time. it looked better with
moxie.
Yeah, they look better with him than with the starter. So it's a scary group coming up here. And as you saw, anything can happen on any given Sunday. Yeah. I still am in total shock that the Bucks. I'm sure Bucks destroyed a ton of survivor pools to drop 55 points on the road at LA. That is still just mind-numbing.
They should be 3-1 too. They should be 3-1.
Yes, they should. But Jameis Winston will always help you out in the end. But if you look at the schedule, and I think that Chicago game, as much as we say Chase Daniel is filling in nicely, he doesn't need to be great. Not with that defense they have there, which takes me to my next question. You look at the defenses the Saints have faced in the first 4 weeks. They've all had a common theme. They've been nasty in that front four. It continues with the Bucks, best pass rusher in the league, most sacks. Then on the Jacksonville on Chicago. The first 7 weeks, you don't play better defense than what the Saints have played.
Yeah, exactly. So get used to 12-10 victories. I don't know. I mean, maybe. If you got to grind it out, so be it. You got to play ball control, so be it. You need your defense to make some plays. You need your special teams to make some plays. Hey, man, this is a kind of a different era we're in right now. It's funny because this is how LSU won a lot. Now LSU's scoring 60, 70 points a game, and the Saints are having a win by 12-10 margins. But look, you got to do what you got to do. That's the NFL. If you don't adjust in the NFL, you will die, and they've adjusted.
Garland, is the scary part about Tampa Bay is that you just don't know what you're going to get week to week?
You don't know if Jameis Winston's going to fly off the handle and try to eat a W for the game, or that he's going to go out and throw for 4 touchdowns. He's just so unpredictable, and that's the reason why the Bucks only extended him through this year and didn't sign him to a full extension. The Bucks don't even know what they got with Jameis Winston from week to week, but Bruce Arians, I think, is one of the better coaches in the NFL. And for this team to be 2-2 right now is pretty impressive. And as you pointed out, they should probably be 3-1. They blew that Giants game at the end. Blew one of my picks in Survivor there. I'm sure with you also.
They got a dynamic duo at wide receiver in Godwin and Evans. They got 2 great tight ends in Howard and Brate. I mean, they got some players now.
They do.
They got some players.
Getting it all to come together for them has always been the problem, and consistently. The resurgence of Jacksonville, we've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks about how the backup quarterbacks that have been stepping into starters' roles, they haven't been slouches. In Jacksonville, it's a perfect example. They've got a backup there who has kind of assumed the role of, look, darn if I do, darn if I don't, because no one's expecting anything from me, and he's been fantastic.
Boy, he just seems so at ease with this spotlight. It's
Isn't he
unbelievable.
older?
It's almost like he's playing with house money a little bit. You get the feeling. He's a rookie. He's a 6th-round pick. Had a crazy journey in college. Yeah. He's just having fun, letting it rip, and it feels like that's kind of contagious in that locker room. Our own Leonard Fournette is certainly enjoying it. He's had, over 200 yards rushing last week, so I think he's 3rd in the league right now in rushing yards. So this is the year of the backup quarterback in the NFL, not just them playing, but them playing well and winning games.
And Gardner Minshew, his favorite target is DJ Chark, and we saw DJ Chark make some massive noise at LSU. You're right, he's playing with house money because at some point Nick Foles is going to take back that job. They gave him a ton of money.
Do you think so?
Well,
if they're rolling, I don't know.
Yeah. But he right now, he probably is under the thought process that Nick Foles is going to probably take it back. So he's like, I'm just going all out every week. Now, we'll say this. The Broncos are 0-4 now, so the schedule is helping out Jacksonville.
And he is just like Cam Newton in Carolina. They've got a backup there that's won 2 games in a row. Do you bring Cam back once he's healthy again? A lot of questions with backups and their starters eventually coming back from injuries. All right, coming up, we'll talk NBA hoops as training camp is underway for your New Orleans Pelicans. Stay with us.
Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
The most anticipated NBA preseason in years here in New Orleans is underway out in Metairie with your New Orleans Pelicans. Zion, Drew, Lonzo, and many others were on the court today. First official practice together, although many of the guys were at the facility weeks before camp opened, just getting some runs in. Guys, how important is it to hook the fan base early by winning early, or will the fans be patient?
Look, this is as excited as the fan base has been in quite some time. They've had to deal with, 2 superstars leaving now, working their way out of town. The worst you can have in a fan base for a professional team is apathy, and that had crept in at times with the Pelicans. Now you have excitement. So, look, if they're excited and they lose, they're impatient, so be it. As long as there's some excitement within this fan base, to me, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, realistically, you got to be somewhat patient, but the fans are all in and want instant success. As long as they're passionate, so be it.
The Pelicans made a great move this year. They're going to have the open practice this Saturday at the Smoothie King Center. Usually they do it like at noon. They pushed it back to 6 o'clock at night. It's free. It's free to get into. That place is going to be wild. Yeah. It might be sold out. Now, I know it's free, but there might not be a seat available in that place
right.
there.
I agree.
And it's going to be really your only chance, even for the media, to see them practice, because today we didn't get to see any practice. So I've gotten numerous questions today from people asking us how Zion looked. I don't know. The only thing he did tell me was I asked him to break out like a tomahawk or 360 dunk, and he's like, dude, I'm not doing that till like season 2 in the NBA. He's like, I'm not trying to show up anybody. I just want to do my job.
Until he does it.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe that. I'm sure he's gonna pull a 360 sometime during training camp, but we won't see it.
Yeah. What are you guys most looking forward to with these Pelicans?
Well, I kind of want to see that all flow on the court a little bit. Is it going to be a Gentry style offense where they can kind of run, gun, kick out, shoot threes, and then how quickly does Zion adjust? I know they want to make Drew Holiday the face of the team, and frankly, I understand that because I think he's the most underrated player in the NBA. But still, I just want to see how quickly this thing gels together and how quickly can the chemistry come together and this be the team that can contend for a playoff spot.
Another person I'm really intrigued to see how he molds himself into this offense is JJ Redick. Okay. Because JJ and Zion seem very close already. Both are Duke guys. Obviously, opposite ends of the spectrum on age. JJ's probably only got a few years left. Zion's just starting his career. It seems like they're very close already. I think JJ is going to be the key to seeing Zion grow because he's seen it all before. All the way from Duke with Coach K, all the way to the pros there. So and he's also a fantastic soundbite there in JJ Redick.
I wonder if Coach K's had a conversation with Redick about bring Zion along a little bit. That seems like something the coach would do. Look, we got this guy coming in. Grab him by the hand a little bit.
It'll help Coach K build his brand because obviously there's a ton of Dukies already on the Pelicans as there is 5. So it's definitely helping the Coach K and the Duke brand to have 5 of them. But Duke wants to see Zion do successful in the NBA. So JJ's gonna be talking to him. Frank Jackson, Brandon Ingram. They got the crew there in New Orleans. A lot of the Dukies.
He's well protected. He's well protected. Zion. There are a lot of guys protecting him. He's going to be fine.
And, front office and on the court. You're right. One thing David Griffin, the vice president, said earlier last week, he said, you know what? We could have a great season and still end up as a 10 seed. We could have a great season and end up as the 4 seed because the West is that stacked. Is he tempering expectations to the fan base to say, you know what, look, they've got 3 guys on the roster with at least 8 years experience and above. Everyone else is 1- and 2-year players. 20 players on the roster. 14 were not with this team last year. 6 of them, obviously rookies, first time playing in the pros. But Griffin seems like he's taking the stance of, look, let's don't put the cart before the horse here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's understandable. It sounds like a seasoned front office man in the NBA with years of experience knowing how this thing goes and how do you define success? Is it just wins and losses? Is it, development of your players? We'll see. I think at the end of the day, though, battling for a playoff spot should be a realistic expectation for this team.
Playoffs this year?
I say yes, an 8 seed.
Playoffs?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to go with 8 seed. You know why? Because I think the Lakers are going to flop this year.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Strong.
Kyle Kuzma's out for the first month or so of the season. I'm saying the Lakers flop.
We shall see. Coming up, from life on the road to a year off the field to a new form of Friday night entertainment. Everyone has a final say. Next.
Watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
We have hit the home stretch here on Overtime, and that means we have to talk prep football and Friday night's game of the week. St. Aug, Brother Martin, Catholic League Powers.
Brother Martin's, their first team defense won in 4 games. Has given up 17 points with 2 shutouts. Brother Martin is playing fantastic football right now. Destroyed Jesuit last week. The next 2 weeks, man, watch out for it. Start with the St. Aug this week. Then they play Brummel next week. Brummel's got a really good defense. We're going to see what Mark Bronice and the guys are about. But I'm really impressed. Offense, Garrett Memahat, defense there. They got some lockdown guys. I'm really impressed with the Satyrs.
All right, going to be looking forward to that game. Time now for everyone's favorite part of the show, our final say. And Sean Vazan, as always, leads us all.
All right, I want to give a quick shout out to Nicholls State football. You say, Sean, why? Didn't they just lose to Texas State? Yes, they did. But has anyone actually looked at their schedule? Not only is Texas State an FBS program, it was also the Colonel's 4th road game in a row. That's right. We are in October, yet the Colonels are 2-2, and they've yet to play a home game this season. Now, they had a bye week sandwich somewhere in the middle there, but still, that's a long time to wait for your home opener. That will happen this week when they welcome Central Arkansas to Thibodaux. And, of course, the flip side to a lot of road games to start is there are a lot of home games to finish. The Colonels will play 5 of the next 8 at home with every single opponent in conference. So, shout out to the Colonels for tackling their grueling early road stretch head on. Here's hoping things get a bit easier down the stretch.
The NFL is a brutal game. We all know that. The hits are downright scary sometimes. The latest example came from Vontaze Burfict crushing a defenseless Jack Doyle. This late hit was totally unnecessary and has no place in the game. Burfict was ejected for the nasty play and was suspended for the season. Burfict is appealing the decision. Hopefully the NFL upholds this suspension. This game is dangerous enough. It doesn't need headhunters knocking out young players in the league. Burfict should take the suspension and move on because I think he was lucky. I think it could have been much longer.
I agree with you, Garland. Can you say figure 4, half Nestlin, the claw? My final say is about finishing moves in the wonderful world of wrestling. Yes. That's right, wrestling, and it's making a return to Fox 8 beginning this Friday. Full disclosure, growing up in North Carolina, I wasn't the biggest wrestling fan, but my cousins were, so we all watched it on Saturday morning. They came on right after Bugs Bunny went off. So we all watched Superfly Jimmy Snuka, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Woo! To be the man, you had to beat the man. And Ric Flair was the man then. And apparently, The Rock is the man now. At least that's what the WWE is portraying him as. I get it. Star power is what sells wrestling. And Dwayne Johnson is a big movie star. He's been away for 20 years, but now he's back. And so too is his finishing move, the People's Elbow. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? You will. Friday night on Fox 8.
Beautiful.
The conversation continues on the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. We've got extensive Saints talk on episodes 77 and 78. And keep an eye on your podcast feed for the Wednesday release of our weekly triple coverage podcast. Week 5 will have previews for the Saints, LSU, Tulane, Southeastern, Nicholls, and high school football. You can find the podcast on fox8live.com, the Final Play, and Tiger Huddle app, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Real quickly, favorite wrestler, got one?
Oh, JYD, the Junkyard Dog.
Undertaker.
Undertaker.
All right.
Very nice. You guys are like new school wrestlers. Y'all know that.
Whoa, Junkyard Dog, that's the 80s, bro.
And of course, our TV coverage continues tomorrow night on Game Plan. Until then, for the guys next to me and all of us here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.